started. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It is August the 19th. Oh, it's the dog days of summer. You are here for five secrets to writing a resume that will get you hired. My name is Albert. I am the founder of Albert's List, and I'll be your host today. And my co-host today is Gretchen Hellman, who is a career coach and resume writer, among many things. And she's going to talk about the five secrets to writing a resume that will get you hired, which is especially important in today's extremely competitive job market. We have a poll up here asking how you feel about your resume. Feel free to engage that with a little bit. The webinar chat is open, as is the Q&A, and this webinar will be recorded and sent to you within 24 hours. So without further ado, Gretchen, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. It's always great to have you back sharing your resume wisdom.
So much, Albert. It's always so good to be with you. I've been a longtime fan of Albert's List, and I'm really happy to be here with everybody. And so for those of you who recently joined, if you have some burning questions about a resume, I've got a plan to talk today. But please let me know what your burning resume questions are so I can try to refer to them. So a little bit about me. So my background, actually educationally, I am an engineer by education. I have an electrical engineering degree, but then I went to go work in tech as a product manager, product marketing manager, where I learned all about go-to-market strategy. And in fact, I led those functions at the executive level. And when I left to go be a career coach, I learned all about mindset, what makes us get stuck, what helps us get unstuck. And I joined that with my engineering mindset as well as my go-to-market strategy to help my clients understand what they want next for work, how to get it, and how to make the most of what they have. And here's just some examples of logos that my clients have worked at by now. I've been doing this for 9 years. Next year is my 10-year career coaching anniversary, and I will have worked with 1,000 clients, everyone from snow leopard conservationists to CEOs to chief people officers and CIA agents. So it's a good career for me because I love to learn all about how the world works. So with that, also, we've got an upcoming 3-day workshop. We did our first one last month. It's a 3-day, it's 90 minutes a day. It's 3 days to success summer resume workshop. It's $227 right now, I think, with discounts. And so join me for lunch. We had such a good time with the last group. And so day one, we're going to talk about powerful storytelling on your resume. Day two, we're all going to talk about building trust and standing out. And day three, we're going to talk about bringing it all together and expanding to LinkedIn. And the group really got so close through the last one, they actually formed a job search group. So you might also make some friends. So you'll get that link coming up. So are you guys ready to hear about resumes today? Who's ready? All right. Can you not see the screen in the slides? Okay. All right, cool. So is everybody ready to learn about resumes? Let me see you. I want to make sure you're out there. All right, Luis is ready. Albert is. Tawny, Yara, Patrick, awesome. Virginia, Keisha. All right, Ginny, perfect. Thank you, Elise. All right, Zoe's here. Excellent. All right. So let's just talk, first of all, I'm going to go through some ground rules for resumes. So because I am going to be talking about getting a little bit more creative with your resume, but if any creativity breaks this 4-point litmus test, we can't do it. So the resume must always be honest. Number one, because there's no need to lie. But and it also gets our energy all off. But it also has to be well positioned. I can't tell you how many resumes I've seen where people were trying to be so honest, they were cutting off their nose to spite their face. It has to be honest and well positioned at the same time. It has to be relevant. That means it has to be in the language and success criteria of the jobs you want. If you are industry jargon, if you're speaking different professional jargon from the jobs you're applying for, it's not going to make any sense. And the reason why is I've been studying professional language for quite some time, and I really believe, like from an anthropology perspective, you guys know how there's all kinds of jargon and each industry, each profession, each level. So you guys know jargon like tech has its own jargon, healthcare product managers have their own jargon, etc. Well, the reason why is it's to show people what tribe you're in. It kind of goes back to tribal times. If we speak the right language, that means that we're part of that tribe. Like, for example, if I tell you guys, I went to San Fran yesterday. So those of you who are native to the Bay Area or who live here, if I said I went to San Fran yesterday, what does that tell you about me? If I'm like, oh, I had such a good time in San Fran. Exactly. I'm not yeah, not from the city, not from a staff. I'm not a local. Exactly. And so that's just one example of how important it is to get language right on your resume. So make sure your language is relevant on your resume. And the 4 point of the litmus test is it needs to feel good for you to represent. This is your document. You're going to be representing it in interviews. So of course it needs to feel good. So with that, I'm also going to go through some resume core principles. Feel free to pepper in questions as we go along the way. So, resume core principles. The first one is like everybody wants to have like the resume is a document that can cause more stress than most, right? And we all want our resume to be awesome. But here's the rule. A resume is never perfect. It's never done. It's a living, breathing document. So don't wait to engage in the job market until it's perfect. Make a good bet. Make sure that you get like some feedback about it as well, and then do measurement and continuously improve. So don't wait till that resume is perfect because you're going to be waiting forever. The second resume core principle is your resume is not you. It is a collection of words on a document. I can't tell you how many times I have taken care of clients who were feeling like they were rejected when they hit apply on a company job site, and then they got a no thank you email. Your resume is not you. You were not rejected. And in fact, if you get the interview, that also doesn't mean you were accepted. It just means that your resume is doing its job. So your resume is a collection of words on a document. You have the power to change those words. You have a power to rearrange those words. And today we're going to be talking about some resume science about how to do that for your benefit. The third core principle is your resume's job is to connect what you've done in the job market. Your resume is not a transcript of everything you've done. You get to pick and choose what you put on there. So going back to that 4 point litmus test, if you have stuff that's not relevant, take it out, take it off. It doesn't need to be there. For example, I was just working with somebody who they'd done a software development boot camp, and they've been trying for a while to get a job because it's pretty hard right now to get a job when you've graduated from a software development boot camp. Just with some things that are going on in the tech industry. It's not impossible, but it's hard. And he decided to go ahead and look for a project management position. However, he left software development in a big way on his resume. So that told the hiring organization that he really wanted to be a software developer. So he had something that wasn't relevant and that needed to get taken off. So really think about the job that you're applying for when you're writing your resume. So, okay. All right. So, and the finally, measure your resume success by ratios, not individual data points. I wish I could tell you that when you hit apply online, your resume was going directly to a human being who was going to carefully consider your application and really think deeply about you and your credentials. But unfortunately, that's not how the process works. Sometimes the apply online pile doesn't even get looked at. Sometimes, there's already enough candidates. Sometimes the CEO's cousin needs a job, or sometimes there's an internal candidate. And so you don't, you don't want to gauge success by, is my resume getting me an interview for every job I'm applying for? Because that's not an operationally realistic expectation, because that's not the way the world works. So right now, what I'm seeing, it depends. Like, so the average apply online to interview ratio based on one study was 1 in 20, but there's huge variations based on where the job market is. And so talk to people in your profession who are also looking, understand what their ratios are if you are applying online. And there are other ways to get a job too. So I'm sure Albert's job search boot camp will also talk about that. But measure your resume by ratios. Otherwise, you will not be happy. So, um, any questions about that so far? Any questions about the core principles of a resume? Anything like that? I'm going to wait quietly until I get a question. I like interaction. No questions out there, huh? Oh, why don't you put your question? Yes, all right. Put your question in the chat. So, Brady, yes, I do help people write resumes, and we also have our resume workshop. Oh, it's in the question and answer. Oh, thank you, Zoe. All right, here we go. So Zoe says, my mentor says it's okay to adjust the title a little bit more deeply. The Q&A just went away on me. Sorry, the Q&A got changed to something else. Sorry. I want to get to your question. Oh, I'm having trouble with this. Zoe, could you just put it in the chat? That would be more helpful for me. I'm having trouble for some reason right now with the Q&A. Here we go. My mentor said it's okay to adjust the title a little bit to apply for a new job while keeping the original bullet points. Does it break honest point if the recruiter learns the real role? For example, the job asks for 4 years of experience. So is it okay to remove the word intern in the resume to keep the number of years? So I'd want to take a look specifically at exactly what you're trying to change. So we will talk a lot about job titles because they do play a really big role in the story that our resume tells for sure. But at the same time, if you were an intern and if you're changing like your level to manager or something like that, that would be a lie. Or you could, I'd have to see it. So why don't you just kind of chat some stuff to me and we'll take a look at it. Some other good questions. Is it true that hiring managers tend to review resumes with fewer pages? So hiring managers placed most emphasis at the top half of the first page of your resume. Everything else they glance at. So, so it's not that they're going to pay more attention to one than the other, but the deeper down it gets in a resume, the less emphasis a hiring manager will have in reading it. So, all right, we've got some other good questions. I'm going to come back to those. Let's go on right now to how your resume is used in a go to the job market process. So the way your resume is used in a go to the job market process is it comes second. Most people will come to me and say, I need a new resume, Gretchen. And I'll say, okay, what do you want to do? And they give me a list of 5 different things that they want to do. And they're trying to use the same resume for that. Those because you want to speak in the language and success criteria of the jobs you want, a resume that's designed to as a catch-all for any job somebody might want to apply to across all different job market segments, those don't work very well. And so, and what those people are doing, if you're like, I need a new job, I'm going to write my resume and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to apply for, it's going to be a little bit opposite. You're going to have a really hard time strategically going to market. What you want to do is first think, what would I like to apply for? And then make sure you have a crafted resume that reflects what that segment of the job market is looking for. So definitely start with the target first, preparation second. So target first, preparation second. Okay. So now we're going to get to the secrets. Okay, so we've covered some ground rules. We're going to get to the secrets. When you are looking for a job and when you're writing your resume, I really want you to think about the game you're playing. Because our culture has all these rules, did you get accepted or rejected? You know, were you picked or were you not picked? It's really easy to think that everything is pretty personal, right? Like, you know, I'm taking myself to the job market. It's all feeling very personal. That's not actually how it works. I've got a number of years as a hiring manager underneath my belt, as well as I've worked with tons and tons of hiring managers, as well as vice presidents of talent acquisition and recruiters on their job searches as well. And like oftentimes when I'm working with a hiring manager, they're getting ready to go to market. They get worried. They're like, oh, am I going to get rejected? And I look at them and I go, have you ever rejected anybody? And they're like, oh, no, I've never rejected anybody. I was just trying to find the right fit. And so when you are being considered for a role, it's just not, are you good or bad? What the recruiter and the hiring manager are trying to do is match all these things about you here on the left, like all these individual traits, skills, experience, and knowledge with all of these different things going on inside the organization, like the role must-haves, nice-to-haves, what's the team like, what's the bench strength on the team, what are the personalities, as well as what's going on at the company too, right now and in the future. And so like even sometimes when I was a hiring manager, I did not give my favorite candidate like the role because the CTO was driving me nuts and I couldn't hire somebody that the CTO would drive nuts. I had to hire somebody that the CTO would not drive nuts. So, so sometimes I didn't give the role to my favorite candidate. And so how this applies to your, can you do the job? So if you're not sharing that you have the experience, skills, and knowledge to be able to do the jobs you're applying for, and that means making sure you've got the hard skills on there, making sure that you're using the language that the job postings are using. Can you ramp up quickly? That's when it gets into domain knowledge and specificity. We'll talk about how to integrate that more into your resume. And also, can you round out team bench strength? Oftentimes, when a hiring manager is looking at a resume, like they're not thinking about that big, huge list of things that's in the qualifications. They're thinking more non-linearly about the role. And so sometimes some candidate might have like some knowledge area or some experience that, you know, is kind of like a toy surprise inside. And so that goes on up the thing. And all of that is what leads you to getting an offer. So, So know the game you're playing and take that all in context. So, okay. So Irina, and I'll take a little question pause. Irina says, if I did the same job in different industries, should I put the experience I had only in the industry where I want to get a job? Or is it okay to put the achievements from different industries? It's absolutely okay to have achievements from different industries, but don't use inside baseball industry language. So, like for example, I was helping somebody write a resume, and they had been in supply chain, but we were writing it to a different segment of operations. We did not use supply chain language. We translated all that into operations language, just kind of flat operations language, KPIs and reporting and dot, 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 dot. So you don't want to use verbiage that highlights that you are a stranger in a strange land if you're trying to move into another industry. The other thing is, the further you're going away from the further you're moving away from what you've done, the less apply online is going to work, and the more you're going to want to place emphasis on wayfinding through informational interviews and connecting and networking, those sorts of things. Because the apply online pile it can't think creatively like that. And so sometimes we need to build relationships and we need to build trust in other ways. So, all right, going on to the next one. Okay, so secret number 2. So I have been doing a 10-year study on how people read resumes, and I also used to be the reader of the resume. And so when people think about their resume, they think about format and colors and all that stuff, but format and colors are not as important as storytelling in the lens of how people read resumes. And so I'm going to tell you how 99% plus of people read resumes. That's hiring managers and recruiters. So the first thing that they do, and we're going to take the use case that I've got a job that I'm trying to fill. There are other use cases, but I've got a job that I'm trying to fill. My emotional state is I'm hopeful, I'm worried, and I'm in a hurry. I'm hopeful that I'm going to find the perfect candidate who just snaps in so I can hire them and be done with it, because hiring is a lot of work. I'm worried I'm going to spend a bunch of time talking to candidates that aren't a good fit. And I'm in a hurry because if I'm a hiring manager, I have meetings to go to. If I'm a recruiter, I've got other recs to fill. And so I'm going to take 7 seconds. I'm going to upload the idea of the job into my head. If I'm a hiring manager, I've got that big puzzle that I showed you on understand the game you're playing, my organization, and I'm going to look for matches a little bit more matchy because they've gotten their requirements from the hiring manager. And I'm going to take 7 seconds. So the first thing I do is I scan the top. I do not read any big, huge blocks of text up at the top. If you've got any big blocks of text up at the top, people are not going to read it. So you're just wasting space. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down these golden boxes. So the organizations and the job titles, and I'm going to place the most emphasis on the first one. If the organization and the job title makes sense to me based on what I'm hiring for, I give everything a much softer glance. If it doesn't, I'm going to scrutinize things a little bit more. So for that, so for example, like let's say that this says that this most recent one is I don't know, software developer at Google, right? So if you got software developer at Google, if I, as the hiring manager, like how Google codes and all that stuff, and I'm hiring for a software developer, I've got a much better chance of putting that in the in pile. Now, don't worry if the organizations that you've worked for don't make any sense. There are ways to describe it. There are all sorts of things to do to help, since we know how people read resumes. So I'm going to go to this first golden box, and then I'm just going to glance at the rest. So all these questions about how long should a resume be, anything you absolutely want the hiring manager to see, make sure that's on the first page. Because if it's not on the first page, they're really just going to glance at it. Then I'm going to go through these golden boxes. So the dates, over here on the right, I'm going to take a look at how long do they stay. I'm going to get an idea of career trajectory. And then I'm going to scan the rest of the information. If it's a hard skills job, I'm going to be looking for hard skills matches. If it's a strategic job, I'm going to be looking for specificity, results, subject matter. How I get this resume as well is going to influence how I feel about it. If I get this resume from my friend Albert, I'm going to try to find better things in it, because if Albert trusts the person who gave him this resume, I trust Albert. The person who gave him the resume is going to have inherited trust from me. And then in 7 seconds, I'm done. So how do you guys feel about that? How people read resumes? Does that worry you? Is it empowering? How's everybody feeling about that 7-second scan? Okay, so you feel pressured, Heidi. All right. Okay, you're feeling worried, Zoe. Okay. And so are you worried that like you don't have enough time to get everything across? So Poonam says it doesn't seem fair. Okay, KT says I feel a little bit sad about not looking at my professional summary. Okay. And so yeah, it seems like we've gotten people kind of feeling anxious about that. I'd like to try to flip it around and make it empowering, not disheartened. So, like Elisa's feeling, as time spent does not equal ROI. So I will say that the 7 seconds is a first pass. Okay. They will look at it more carefully. But if we understand how our resume is telling the story, instead of putting all this work crafting our professional summary up top, we really want to spend more time focusing on telling the story and the job titles and the dates, as well as having a powerful top bar. So, okay, all right. Jacob is appreciating the information. So, and so what the whole workshop that we do, this 3-day workshop, is really geared to help you understand how to write a resume given the science of resumes. It's not really fair that with all the books on resumes and with all the worry and all the templates, that people don't share this information. The reason why they don't is they just haven't, like, they're not an engineering kind of marketer like me. I just needed to find this out. If I'm going to write a document, I really want to understand how they work. So for all of you people who are like, should it be 2 pages or 1 page? What color should I use? Really, the core rule is you want your resume to tell a story here. Is there any assistance offered after the 3-day resume workshop? So the 3-day resume workshop people all kind of stuck together and helped each other as well. And then I also do private one-on-one coaching myself as well. So, all right. So I want to give you guys an invitation to think like a hiring manager. So if we're not like, so instead of worrying about having a professional summary, and instead of worrying about how long our resume is to start, what I want you guys to be concerned and invested in as you think about the goals for your resume is the job market segment you are applying for. And so I want you to think about what a hiring manager really cares about in your segment. So let me just toss out some job titles and you guys tell me what you think a hiring manager would really care about um, for that job title. So let's say cybersecurity product manager. What do you think top three things a hiring manager cares about when they're hiring a cybersecurity product manager? What do you guys think? Security certifications, probably, yeah, maybe. What else? So, like, what else for a cybersecurity domain knowledge is going to be real, be able to understand cybersecurity. Okay. Okay. So for a product manager in cybersecurity, so we've got cybersecurity experience across all level is important. I wouldn't say it's one of the top three. I actually used to hire cybersecurity product managers because that was my actual experience is nice, right? Money. I want money. I want somebody who has built products that make a lot of money. That's what I bottom line of a product manager position. They are to shepherd a product to make money and market leadership, right? And so, yes, I care about Agile and I care about all that stuff, but I'm really going to care about domain knowledge. I'm going to care about money. And I'm going to care about maybe market leadership or their own leadership, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So for an accountant, what do you think? What do you think the top three things would be for an accountant? What do you guys think? CPA, yeah, that can be pretty important. Not all accounting jobs need it, but a CPA is nice. Yep. What else? Yes, I got to be really good with numbers. I got to be really detail oriented, right? The accountant has to make sure that those books are clean and they're good, right? So accounting knowledge, attention to detail, right? Um, Timeliness is really important. I got to get the books done on time if I'm an accountant. So for you guys, I want you to think about your top three with what you're applying for. So just take a minute and kind of think through, okay, I'm applying for this type of job. Here are the top three things I want to make sure come really clearly on my resume. So why don't you guys share what you're applying for and just a couple of things, a couple of goals for your resume that you really want to make sure come through clearly. Yeah. And so if it's running a product in cyber is an overhead. So when I say cybersecurity product manager, I mean somebody who's making a product that is going to be sold. If you're internal, if you're a cybersecurity analyst, right, that's very different. Those are very different kind of top three things that I would want to see. For cybersecurity analyst, I would want to know that they were that probably they could automate things, that they could do Python. Um, okay, I like that, Luis. All right, perfect. So the people are adopting your program, you're doing things within budget and timeline. And I would say, yeah, beyond adoption, I would say the impact of your programs. Do you have KPIs and are they achieving the desired impact? Okay, so data engineer, Python, cloud computing, data lake. And so, and Zoe, I think that's good, but beyond just Python, right? So there's so many people who code in Python. And so data engineers, I know, like need to build like really highly efficient, streamlined data pipelines, right? Is that what data engineers need to do? And so I would really think like, maybe, complex data problem solver or anything like your top three that you bring to the table that not every data engineer has. Okay, analog IC design, electrical engineer. Okay, an ability to use simulation tools to verify the circuits. So we're doing like hard skills matching. I think that's good, but really think about your unique differentiator that your unique differentiator. Like one question that I ask clients that can really help them out, I ask them, hey, do you think everybody does like this thing you do the same way? Like for you, Zoe, does everybody approach data engineering the same way? And if they don't all approach data engineering the same way, right? Yeah, they don't, Zoe, right? So you're kind of seeing people approach data engineering in different ways. So I want you to think about how you approached what your unique approach is to data engineering to make it really good. That is the thing that's going to stand out. That's your differentiator, right? So those are the goals that you want to set for your resume, not just like I'm a worker who can do this thing, but I'm a data engineer who's great at complex data wrangling, right? Like all these messy, like disparate data sources, like tie them all together. Like I'd have to know a little bit more about data engineering, but you know what I'm talking about. So so really think about the unique way you try to go about that and make that a goal for your resume, but make sure it ties to definition of success in the role. So software engineers need to develop clean code on time. Like that, those are three great things, right? So make sure if that's what you do, bring that to the table, make that really clear. So there are two different ways also to kind of go about job search. The first is to go after a job market segment and then write a resume to the middle of it. Like, so for example, Luis, you're a program manager. I would want to see an industry segment and maybe like a level kind of chosen. Like there's so many different types of program manager jobs. So maybe it's like people programs program manager or technical program manager working with software teams. It can really help to just choose one segment and go after that for a period of time and then go to another one rather than shape shifting all the time. It can be really hard to be impactful when I'm trying to change my who. If you must spearfish, though, just establish goals. And spearfishing, I mean, you're going across job market segments on the daily. So you're kind of like, ooh, I like that job. And then I'm going to write a resume for that job. And then, ooh, I like that job. That's a very different job market segment. I don't recommend that you do that, but if you must, think the same way. Like, what are my three goals for this resume that I'm going to write? Okay. And so with that, we're going to establish some goals for our resume. Like, here's kind of what I want people to see about me. If you think through what you want people to see about you, you won't have to be sad that they don't read your professional summary because you'll get it across to them anyway. It's not that it's not that these hiring organizations don't care about people, but you are not when you apply for a job, they are not actually assessing your worth. Like, do not take your worth to the job market. The job market is not going to be kind to it. Keep your worth with you. Instead, take your services to the job market and make sure you're very clear about your services, how they work, right, and what they do. Because really, they do rush through the hiring process. It isn't very intentional about human beings. And if you try to lay your worth on the line every single time, it's going to be really painful. And that's not the game they're playing. So don't put your worth on the line. Express what your services, your knowledge, experience, etc. And then know that the job market isn't looking at it in terms of good, bad. Like, is this person good or is this person bad? Know that the job market is looking at it as, is this individual services a fit, or are they not a fit for what our organization needs right now? And it's a pretty tricky puzzle piece. So, and Ken, I totally understand taking it all way too personal. Like, it's no fun to get those emails, right? Like that go, oh, well, there were better candidates. But like those emails lie anyway. I wish what those emails would say is, we're not going to interview you, but there could be a million reasons why. Please don't make up any stories because, a computer is sending you this message. So it's all very impersonal. Um, so let's talk about title, company, and date storytelling. Because our titles, companies, and dates tell such a big part of the story, let's make sure that they're telling the right part of the story. And let's talk about some common challenges that people have. One of the first ones is meaningful titles confusing companies. So if you have a meaningful title, but people don't know who your company is or what it does, you make the title bigger, and then you have the company and a description of the company. So so I don't think I have any examples of that. Oh, I do in a little bit. I'll show you some different examples. If you have a meaningful company, but you have confusing job titles, you want to put the company bigger. And then if you have a confusing job title, and this goes back to somebody's question earlier, you can use a descriptive title. And what I mean by a descriptive title is sometimes titles lie. Like I had a client and her actual title that they gave her was project manager, but she was actually a product manager. She owned the roadmap and she worked with engineering and she talked to customers and she did all that stuff. She was a product manager. And so we sometimes the actual title we're given is a lie. So we gave her a descriptive title of product manager because otherwise recruiters and hiring managers would have been really confused about what she did there. Now, where that stuff gets to be a lie is if we lie by level. So, for example, let's say that I was a senior manager of product marketing. Okay, I'm a senior manager of product marketing, and really I'm doing kind of more program management. And then I changed my title to vice president of program management. Well, that's not true at all. So that would be a lie. I'll give you another example of a descriptive title that's a lie. So a software engineering manager. So for those of you who are in tech, a software engineering manager, how many people would you expect would report to a software engineering manager? How many people do you think? Software engineering manager, how many reports do you think they'd have? Okay. Yeah, like 7 to 10, maybe 20, 3 to 10. Exactly. So I had a client who had the title of software engineering manager, but he had a huge org of 150 engineers reporting to him, right? 150. And so we had a challenge that everybody would see software engineering manager and they would assume that he only had 3 to 10 people. And so what we did was we changed his title to head of software engineering, not vice president, not director. We changed it to head of software engineering. And then we described the software that his org was building. So that's a good example of a descriptive title. So we didn't say, oh, and then Heidi has a question, how to handle promotion throughout time with company. You started as an admin and ended as an HR business partner over the course. And that's really normal. So Heidi, you get to, when you've been growing with a company, Um, you get to kind of choose how you frame those things a little bit, if that makes sense. So, because sometimes we get like some really rapid like title changes and stuff, and it gets confusing. And so we don't want to like that kind of breaks the relevance. Sometimes it's inside baseball. So if you were at the company for a long time, I recommend you break up those dates. Um, on the right-hand side so people can see the growth every 3 to 5 years. If you're at the company for a short period of time, that's another question. And so you may want to eliminate some of the changes that happen so it doesn't look so confusing. Um, Okay, Robin says, in my case, I really did have oversight of 3 different departments in a previous role. Is it fair then to have a descriptive title higher than director? I had 10 direct reports, 2 shared with other departments. So when it gets to director, I would expect that a director would have like 10-ish direct reports. Um, if you're I would want to talk to you a little bit, Robin, about the exact profession and stuff like that. I need a little bit more context. If you feel like the change you want to make is honest, well-positioned, relevant, and helps you feel more confident, then it passes my 4-point litmus test. And so, like for example, if you had oversight of 3 different departments, you might want to change what you're the director of, or like you might just want to say, I want to know what those 3 departments were. For a crafting thing, I'd need to know a little bit more. Um, oh, okay, head of marketing and customer education. Yeah, then I just call yourself like head of marketing and customer education. Um, Customer education isn't a really traditional like just clinical, you're in pharma. Yeah, then absolutely I would do that. Yeah, see how I think software first and then I have to adapt because that's where I grew up. So yeah, absolutely, just say head of marketing and clinical customer education. There you go. If it's head of, then you're not lying. So you're not saying, but if you do say vice president, senior vice president, or whatever, then you are lying because that indicates rank that your company gave you. So head of is totally fine. Um, oh, another really big challenge is oh, you're welcome, Robin. Oh, another challenge is lots of contract jobs with short time frames. Do not list every contract job with the dates on the right-hand side. It is confusing. Bucket them up because it will make it look like you're a job hopper. Don't let yourself look like you're a job hopper when you're not a job hopper and you're doing contract roles. So you can bucket them together under contract, or you can, like, if they're for reasonable amounts of time, you can just say contracting, or you can just have title contract work and various, and then list the different places that you contracted from. And if you have a long time at one company, break it up with different titles, different roles. So Riri is asking how to manage titles that are lower or higher depending on industry. For example, bank VP is somewhat equal to product manager in tech. So if I'd want to understand what the move was. So if I'm a VP at a bank, um, and maybe it's for internal IT, and that's why you want to move to a product manager at a bank. Is it like a related move or a direct move? Give me a little bit more context on that one, and I'll tell you. So, for example, I just want to show like kind of some of the transformation we can do with the stories and the dates, okay? Our job titles and dates. So I went and looked on LinkedIn for somebody who had so I picked out this LinkedIn profile. When you see this person, what's your reaction to their career? What do you think they do? What career are they in? this person right here. What do you guys think? Okay. Sales, hospitality. Yeah, I can see some hospitality, hospitality in restaurants. Yeah, it is all a little confusing, isn't it? So there's not like a really good throughput. And this person, they say they're seeking new opportunities in fundraising and development, right? So we've got them going to X to Y to Z, and now we're back in fundraising and development. So what I did was I reframed their job titles and their companies to relate to fundraising and development. So the Tommy Bahama one, I changed it to customer experience representative, luxury goods. The reason why luxury goods is in fundraising and development, you're going to be dealing with a lot of high net worth individuals. And so to show that he was talking to high net worth individuals at Tommy Bahama, I changed client associate to account associate just to make it a little bit more in line with kind of nonprofit language. And then I changed pins from sales development representative to development representative because he's looking for jobs in fundraising and development. So even just some slight tweaks on words, removing them or adding them can really help. Um, so Ken says, so my titles go back to 2017, service lead desk, knock manager, technical operations manager, technical program manager. That's absolutely not confusing because I can see your career growth. This guy is confusing because he's going to Tommy Bahama and then he's going to some services thing and then he's doing restaurant stuff. He's jumping across industries and industry language, but you're staying in IT, right? And then we can see you growing in IT. And so, for a technical program manager role that had to do with a lot of network operations or any sort of big IT stuff, that would kind of give me confidence. It shows me that you've learned a lot there. So you've got good titles. Okay. Okay, so secret number 3. So once we get our job titles and our dates and our companies right, then we want to build trust with specificity. So building trust with specificity. So, oops. So just with that, I'm going to go back to this point. So I want you guys to imagine that you're hiring for a VP of IT, okay? You guys are the recruiters and the hiring managers. You're trying to pick a candidate to hire for VP of IT. Here's the first candidate, okay? I'll let you take a look at that. First candidate. Whoops. And here's the second candidate. Okay, let's go back to first one more time. Here's the first candidate. And I want you guys to tell me if you could only pick one of these to interview, which one of these people would you interview? 1 or 2? What do you guys think? 1 or 2? Okay, yeah, almost everybody says 2. Why did you guys pick 2? 1 or 2? Okay, KT says scope and tech skills are there. Why did everybody else pick 2? Yeah, there was more specificity in the second one, right? And I've got some news for you. This is the same person. So this is a before and after of some resume bullets. Before we put in specificity and then after. Yes, and so specificity built your trust. It had metrics, it had technology. This one does not, right? This one is just kind of like, okay, I did these things. It sounds like a job description and it doesn't really come alive. And because I'm hopeful, worried, and in a hurry, I'm going to choose this candidate instead, but it's the same person anyway. So to get specificity into your resume bullets, everybody goes, oh, I should have short bullets. Unless you are a copywriter or a graphic designer or a content person, you don't need short bullets. If you are any one of those three, your portfolio is going to be one of the biggest things that tells your story. And so that's a little different. But so I'm just going to kind of speak to um, all other roles. But so you want to reflect bullet content in language from the job description. And so I came up with this little way to get specificity and reflection. Go through the jobs that you're applying for, highlight the things you've done, and then write a reflective response to them about something you actually did. What I did, how I did it, why I did it, what were the results. That will give you one long, messy bullet. And then you just take the most interesting parts of it, clean it up, and make it better. Um, And so now you know why everybody says put numbers in your resume. It's not just because numbers are important, it's because specificity builds trust. It helps me imagine you doing these things. Any questions about that or anything else so far? Ah, yes, that's you, Elise. But I will say for those of you who are creatives, definitely that the job titles and the dates and stuff, absolutely, that really matters. Whenever I work with a creative, like right now, I'm working with an art director, and we're really, really focused on her creative process, all of that stuff, and getting it into copy, like copyright, copywriting quality and short information. So we're focusing a lot on the information architecture, knowing that we're just trying to drive people to go to her portfolio because her portfolio is beautiful. And then we get to the portfolio, and then we need to think about the UX of the portfolio as well. And yes, it is a sticky wicket. All right. So, and here's just so you can see the difference. So. Okay, let's move on to secret number 4. Secret number 4, we want to take advantage of the top bar. So I know there were some people earlier who were like, oh my gosh, if people just like spend 7 seconds on a first scan of my resume, that makes me really sad. Oh, actually, let me just go back. The other reason why specificity, I want to say one more pitch for specificity in resumes for non-creatives. So the resume has 2 jobs. The first job is to build enough trust that you can do the job in the language and success criteria of that role, that companies want to spend time interviewing you. So it's to get interviews. The second piece is to support good conversations in those interviews. And so for those of you here who have interviewed other people, like you know what it's like you go into an interview and you're like, I don't know what to ask this person. What do I ask this person? And then you go and look at their resume and you see something specific and you say, tell me about that, because you just don't know what else to ask. Has that anybody ever done that? Anybody there? Anyway, I've done that. A lot of my clients have done that. Like, you're not sure what to ask. So you just go to something in the resume. All right, Robin has. And so if you have specificity of things you really like talking about on your resume, that's going to support better conversations in your interviews. And yes, Robin, I always did too, right? You want to know about it. So make sure if you've got a story that it's a really good story there that you want to talk about. So Christine says, oh, yes. And Rita, user interface designer. So Rita, just know everything I'm sharing is resume UX. So now that you understand resume UX and how the eye goes, you can at least use that, right, to write a clean and beautiful resume. So UI, definitely, we want clean and beautiful. Question here. Any other tips for those of us who are in content, how much and how to reveal in the resume or cover letter versus portfolio. So I haven't done a deep dive on content resumes use, but other creatives, I know everybody just kind of scans like, and then they go directly to the portfolio. Like they really don't look at the resume very much at all. They go directly to the portfolio. And so, Christine, I'd recommend like go and ask like a couple of your friends if you have any friends who are hiring, just ask them like about their process, like what they look at. And my guess is they look at where you've been and then they go directly to the portfolio to see the content. And so just make sure that your resume is driving people to the portfolio. Um, do, 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 do. Christopher says, when we list awards on resumes, cover letters, or LinkedIn, do we have to include the dates when the awards were received? No, no, you don't. Your resume is not a transcript. It's a marketing document. So if you meet, if you run into anybody who you're interviewing with and they go, tell me what year this was, otherwise I don't believe it. Like they're a suspicious person. Like I know sometimes we just need a job, but if we end up working for suspicious jerks, like we usually don't like that. So also that's something for everybody to know. Like there's a lot of fear about getting challenged about our resumes. Like, you know, I'm surprised nobody's asked me about gaps in this one. Like usually a lot of people ask about gaps. Um, I don't worry about gaps so much. Like if it's recent, like describe what you've been doing and try to show that you've been keeping up with professional development. But if you've got like a gap like 5 years ago, like don't worry about it so much. Like if you have the way the hiring team approaches those things is going to tell you a lot about them. And if they're like, tell me where you were like between August 2015 and September 2016, like otherwise I don't believe you and what's wrong with you that you would take that time off, like they're really not nice people. So don't worry about that so much. If it does happen, it's going to say so much about them. Um, do, 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 do. Um, okay. Oh, is it true that PDF format is preferred by ATS systems over DocX? The ATS systems, the only thing about ATS systems and ATS readiness is ATSs parse your resume. So like, but you can see exactly how it's parsing it because they parse it. Like they parse it right in front of you and give it to you for review. So I wouldn't worry about that so much. There's a lot of concern about bots and filters. So, in terms of bots and filters, if you are a non-traditional candidate, you're probably wasting a lot of your time applying online. You got to go talk to the people and get help getting to where you want to go. Get really curious, ask for advice. Um, if you are in the same lane and you're not getting past all the filters, number one, make sure that you've got all the hard skills matched. Every like you want those hard skills. Like if they want Salesforce and you don't have Salesforce on your resume, that's really going to hurt you, for example, or like or Python or Figma or whatever it is, Airtable, like all those good things. So that's number one. Number two, if you have specificity, if you're really clear about what you've done and results and stuff like that, I haven't had any problem with resumes not performing well with the ATS. All right, let's keep going. So now we're going to talk about advantages of the top bar. So now we're on to, you know, this professional statements. So people will not read big blocks of text up at the top. However, we can use the top bar for our advantage. So going back to those goals that I wanted you guys to think about, those unique and individual goals about what you want to express on your resume. Like back when I was in cybersecurity products, like before I had teams, I probably, you know, would have said, you know, something about being like a really, really strong solution marketer. I love solution marketing, you know, helping products, helping products gain leadership status. I had a lot to say about that. and breaking into new markets. That was a big thing that I did. So I would want to get all those things across. Um, but so we've got our goals. Now we want to take advantage of the top bar. We want to express those things that we want people to know in a web readable statement about who we are. Web readable, not a big chunk of text, web readable. And so, like, for those of you who are UI designers and stuff like that, you know what that is. It's just like a line or two. That's it. And then we get to use other subtext in the top bar. So, for example, for software developers, I always encourage them to put their hard skills up at the top. Same with any kind of engineer, because they will want to know. Like, that's one of the first filtering things that somebody will do is they'll go, okay, what hard skills do you know if you're an engineer? Or we can list achievements if we're more on the strategic side or growth side, like just some example achievements. Um, and so anything you want them to absolutely know, put it up there. Put the things in the top bar. Now that's balance, right? We were talking about one page versus 2 pages. And here in the US, unless it's a CV, and CVs are like if you're in education, academia, I believe like doctors have CVs as well. Like if you publish papers, that's a CV. Otherwise, we're in resume land. Try to keep it to 2 pages. If you're going beyond 2 pages, um, you're not thinking about the person reading it and what you want them to know. It's probably a stress reaction. You can cut some stuff because they're not going to look at everything. Um, as you grow out the top bar, don't let the key jobs that you want to see slip into the second page. Like right now, I'm working with a client and they have a really recognizable name and a lot of great stuff. Like they had this really great job, and then they had 2 jobs right after, and those other 2 jobs didn't go very well, so they don't have a lot of good stuff to say, but we've really pulled out like as much good stuff as we have to say, but we don't want that really good job to slip on the second page. We want to try to pull it up, so we're constantly balancing out how much we have at the top versus not letting that thing slip down. So I'll give you an example. So this is a before, okay? So this is where we've got like kind of a lot of text and stuff like that. And this is after. So this is for enterprise sales. This was a client that I worked with. And he was looking for a sales job. He had some challenges because he'd been in kind of like one sales niche for a while, and he was having trouble escaping that. He really wanted to get into SaaS, the software as a service world. And so he was kind of pointing to it, but it was kind of like hidden here, right here. And with business development executive, I saw this stuff, but what I didn't see was numbers. Like, what do people want from their sales executives? They want big numbers. They want quota attainment, like they want all that stuff. So we're speaking in the language, like the purpose of his profession is to build revenue. And so like we switched it to this web readable statement about how he loved to find revenue and win major accounts and like drive growth. So we put together that line for him. And then we made sure that there were lots of big numbers up at the top about growth and like big deals. And then we had all these delicious, like make them drool for it, like accounts that he'd won. Like these are like Fortune 500 companies. Like these are great. Um, so does that make sense to everybody? Any questions about the top bar? Okay, and Crystal, I'm going to ask you for what your profession is. So share your profession so I can help you with your question, because that's going to be relative to your profession. Yeah, so here's the before and here's the after. And so we made sure that his top bar was all about all the success that he drove. So Crystal, could you share what your profession is for me so I can answer your question? Um, yeah, so KT Swenson says, I usually get through ATS for lateral moves, but not higher or other industry. It's kind of frustrating. And yeah, ATS isn't the most creative, like thinking world in the world. It's super matchy. Um, but don't just live in that apply online system. Like, with LinkedIn Premium, they let you know who the recruiters are. We can also ask for informational interviews. We can meet people. We can share that we're intentional, like we care. We can share what we want to give to these career moves that we want to make. And people can help us get to where we want to go. It is much easier in a also the ability to make moves in the ATS world also depends on the dynamics of the job market. So I like to like typify markets. There's job seekers markets and job providers markets. So like, for example, everybody goes, oh, it's so hard to get a job in Hollywood. That's because it's a job providers market all the time. There are way more people who want jobs in that industry than there are jobs available. And so that influences like a lot of the, like it influences a lot about what kind of moves we make and how intentional we have to be. Um, the a job seekers market is the one that everybody in tech enjoyed for until just like about 18 months ago, where there were way more jobs than there were people to fill them. And so we could, if we had some knowledge, like move up faster, like because they're trying to do is fill the candidate pipeline. So right now we will see it's going to be more sluggish. We're going to apply to more jobs and get fewer interviews. But that doesn't mean that there aren't jobs out there. I just had a client get a job offer accepted this week. So there are jobs out there, they are real, but it just does take more work to get an interview than it used to. Um, so Chris says, should we reach out directly to recruiters or hiring managers on LinkedIn? Well, I think it's a good idea, but it's all in the how. So if we reach out to them, go, I want this job, you should interview me for this job, it usually doesn't work very well. However, if we reach out to them and say, hey, I really care about this particular position and here's why, and I didn't want to just get stuck in the ATS, so I'm sending you my resume along. If you think it's a fit, I definitely like to chat. I found better results through that. So we really need to have a reason. Or reaching out to a recruiter, hey, I'm not sure which job to apply to. I just wanted to kind of reach out and say, hi, here's why I care. Do not make it sound like a form message. Everybody on LinkedIn is like, oh my gosh, are more people like trying to use me for stuff right now? So really be intentional about it. Don't just go to use people, share what you want to give as well. If you're sharing what you want to give that job, it's always going to go better. Um, well, and it's not just a soft pitch, Chris, it's sharing that I actually want to give that hiring organization something that's meaningful. Like I really care. I'm just not trying to get. So Brady says, is it true that most resumes are not even viewed by a human and automatically filtered out by an ATS? It really depends on how many resumes there are. I mean, if there aren't that many resumes, they get more of a chance of being viewed by a human. But if there are too many, those organizations are going to rely more on automation. And so there are more things coming into play. There's AI, there's all kinds of stuff coming into play. But just because the ATS exists, like people get jobs despite the ATS all the time. And so then the question is, if the ATS stops everything, then how? And so if you are, I'll get to more there in just a minute, because I know we are running out of time. So, and in secret 5, this brings us to secret 5 actually, which is get scientifically curious. So because your resume is never perfect and because your resume is never done, And because job search is about creating the future without being able to predict it when the stakes feel high and we don't get a lot of feedback back, we want to get really scientifically observant about what's going on. So that's why we don't want it to make it about our worth. We want to make it about our resume's performance. Your resume is not you. Separate it from you, try some things with it, and see how it performs. So do performance testing of your resume in batches and collect ratios. Ask other job seekers in your profession what their ratios are. You want to play with different approaches until you get the funnel moving. And what I mean by getting the funnel moving is if you're applying and not getting any interviews, the whole system is halted. We want to start getting things into that funnel. And I'll show a diagram of that. Um, Also get selective feedback and continuously improve. And what I mean by selective feedback is seek out resume advice from people who are going to take your profession, all of those things into account. If you seek out resume advice from people who do not know that, they're going to give you anxiety provoking advice about like the color or the format, or they're going to say it's too wordy. I've sent some resumes that have literally changed my clients' entire careers through some of those free resume review services. And I've gotten these reports back, oh, your resume, it's too wordy, it's this. And it's not true. The resume actually worked. And so you want to go directly to the people who review resumes like that, people in the industry, et cetera. Or just some friends of yours who are very strategic, but we can get dizzy looking for feedback about our resume, and then we're going to be spinning in circles. And so make sure it's selective. Um, and do a quick check every so often to make sure you're hitting all the major points. So when I'm talking about the funnel, the job search funnel, so the reason why it's a funnel is because we have to put all these things in, like we have to put in a lot of activity to get some things out of it. It's never going to be a one-to-one ratio putting something into this thing like a job application, networking, talking to recruiters, cold applying. There's all the stuff we're going to do. And some of that stuff will result in a connection. If you're doing all that stuff and it's not resulting in a connection, there's something wrong with the target, the resume, or the outreach strategy, meaning maybe like big career transition, don't apply through the ATS, but there's never anything wrong with you, never. And so when it's not working, play with these things. The target is like the segment of the job market you're going after. The resume is, that's why we're here. What words do we have on the paper, as well as the outreach strategy? Maybe I'll stop ATS applying. Maybe I'll shift to informational interviews, or I'll try to get more referrals through Albert's job listings. And so anyway, so that's what I mean by measure it through ratios. And a few more notes. We talked about SEO and bots. If you follow the rules, you only need to be concerned about keyword matches. There are products like out there like JobScan and Resume Worded that can help make sure that you're optimizing the keywords on your resume. I find ChatGPT is getting better and better. I've asked it to compare, you can ask it to compare your resume to a job posting. Trust but verify. It's ChatGPT is still moving along. AI is great. But do not have AI write your resume, because it's not going to have the specificity you need. It's not going to have all of that nuance, but use it as a guide, an editor and checker, not an author. So like, for example, I was doing an investment banker resume. I don't think I'm going to do an investment banker resume again, because my brain just doesn't think in investment banking type stuff. It was really, really hard for me. And because it was really, really hard, like I was having Chat GPT, I was partnering with Chat GPT to do it. I was like, hey, like, how would an investment banker say this? Or like, how would you put these things together? So I was asking it to give me the right language, but I wasn't having it write the resume. And prioritize content over format unless you're a graphic designer. Otherwise, you really want to prioritize the journey of your resume, right? Like, so what are the things you want to get across? Part of it is the design, part of it is going to be the experience. And mindset is everything. So stay curious. So if you stay curious and if you're really intentional and you make sure that you are seeking out selective feedback, not feedback from everybody, but selective feedback, you will get to where you want to go. And with that, so if you want to spend more time working on your resume with me, we've got the upcoming 3-day workshop where we're going to be putting our resumes through their paces, taking a scientific UX storytelling based approach. So please sign up for that. It was so much fun. The last one we did, such a great group of people. And with that, we are done. So I think can do a few more questions, I think, because we've got a few more minutes. Thank you, Heidi. Um, and thank you, Ginny. Thank you for coming. So thank you guys so much. And Albert?
Yeah. Oh, we got a lot of thank yous and everything, and we also have a bunch of questions too. We can go through a few more questions, right?
Oh, let's do it.
All right.
So
So, should LinkedIn mirror the resume? If so, how do you make LinkedIn less specific to particular job descriptions?
So here's the thing. So LinkedIn, yes, LinkedIn has job titles, right? It has companies and it has states. And so you definitely, because we know that the resume tells a lot of the story through the titles, the companies, and the dates. Right, I'll just kind of go back here because this is the way the story comes across. You want LinkedIn to tell the same story, right? Because it's just your story. If you're concerned because you are applying across tons of different types of jobs, that's what I called spear fishing earlier. And if you must spearfish, do, but otherwise, I really recommend that you pick a segment where you can have one consistent story and go after it for like a week or two at a time, like use agile methodology. It works really well for that kind of stuff. And then collect data and then move to another one if you must. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Let's see. Is it worth purchasing LinkedIn Premium?
That's a good question. I pay for it because I need to use all the advanced filters. Um, I really like it. I actually should probably try to use LinkedIn without it because I've been using it for so long. But with LinkedIn, you can see a lot more if you're applying a lot. I think it's worth it. Like sign up for a 30-day trial and play with it. And if you like it, then pay more. I need to pay that much because I need detailed filters to look up people to help my clients like understand job histories and job paths and stuff like that. Um,
Sweet.
nice.
All right. So, can you speak to the structure of the 3-day resume workshop?
Yeah, so there's basically we cover concepts each day and then there's evening work. So
Can you put
so
this
day
again for
one,
everybody?
we're going to talk about powerful resume storytelling. So we're really going to talk about getting that what I call the resume tree, the titles and the dates and the companies really, really right. Day two, we're going to talk about building trust with specificity. So the structure of powerful bullets, how to get to numbers when numbers may be hard. We're going to talk about combing those down. And then day 3, we're going to talk about the powerful top block, um, and how to, express yourself in a powerful top block. And then the other things, LinkedIn and skills and education and all that. So.
And what type of homework are folks getting from those classes too?
Yeah, so day 1, it's working on the resume titles, companies, and dates. So you can get to like that part of the story and feel really good about it. And you can bring your questions to the workshop the next day. Day 2, it's going to be a reflective writing exercise to draw out powerful bullets with a lot of specificity. And day 3, we're going to do some live top block workshops.
Excellent. I'm going to do one more question here before we conclude,
Okay.
since there's a lot here and we're almost at the bottom of the hour. I have about 7 years in a lead or management role. Would expanding on the 13 years of engineering experience I had prior to being a lead be beneficial?
Yeah, so definitely so the earlier stuff is kind of the origin story, right? So if you've been in a lead or a management role, I think what your question is, should I talk about my individual contributor work? And the answer is absolutely. Because, that's your origin story. That helps people understand what kind of knowledge you bring to the table as a manager. Now, you don't need to go back 20 years in your resume. Like resumes only need to go back 10 to 15 years. So only include the earlier stuff if it's relevant. That's the other thing too. It's interesting. I can actually tell what somebody's favorite and least favorite job was just by looking at their resume. And you can tell by the content there, like their favorite job has so much color and there's just well thought out content. It's got lots of specificity. The job they couldn't stand is just kind of flat statements. So make sure though that the most recent jobs have more content and that content is more alive to avoid kind of questions like, what about this job? Like, what'd you get done there? So
All right, wonderful. So I think with that I'm gonna just conclude the questions. Gretchen, any final words with regards to next week's workshop, resume writing, so forth? Still got a lot of people here.
yeah, no, well, thank you everybody for attending. You guys have been so much fun. And yeah, and the last thing I'm going to say is, you know, you all are job seeking right now, and that is the act of creating the future without being able to predict it. And that's a hard thing. And so run your job search in smaller experiments, collect numbers. You'll feel so much better. And do what you're doing right now. Like you're using curiosity. You're like, I'm going to seek out more data because curiosity is the best tool to solve any tough problem about the future. So good job to you guys.
All right, wonderful. I've also dropped in the webinar chat in case any of you want to come back next week. We'll be hosting this workshop again, the eve before our workshop, so you can come with any questions. And there will also, yes, be a recording of this. We'll be sending around the recording within a day or two and sending up a follow-up email. In the meantime, good luck with your resumes. We hope to see many of you at the upcoming workshop. The boot camp, the workshop link is in the webinar. I've mistakenly called it a boot camp. It is just a workshop, just 3 days. And we hope to see many of you there and hope to help you along the way as you build your resume for the fall 2024 hiring season. All right. Thank you all, and we will see you all soon. Have a great rest of your
Okay,
week.
thank you guys. You were awesome. Thanks, Albert. Appreciate
Yep.
you.
Thank you. Bye.